Justice just giggling at me
That's
over there.
this one there. Okay, we're live here, there, ready,
Okay.
and
Second.
action.
Ready,
Good evening.
second. Sorry.
Did you guys start?
Good. Oh yeah, we've started.
And I'm just sitting here just sweating. And
Okay,
it's
that's awesome. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, Ethan. God bless you. Thanks for stopping in. It is 8 o'clock right on the dot, so by my reckoning, so we are right on time this evening. My name is Ian, this is my lovely wife.
Rachel.
We are of Big Family Life in the Simpson home and 4Fs with the Simpson family. You can catch us on our main platform on YouTube. We've got tons of videos and stuff on there if you want to check us out, or on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Those are the platforms that we're in. And if you like what we're out here doing, hey, be sure to give us a subscription, give us a like so that we can reach more people. All right, so 4Fs, faith, family, food, and fitness. Faith, because we believe we can do all things through him who loves us. Family, because aside from God, there's nothing more important on this earth. Food, because food is medicine. And fitness, because we believe that overall wellness can be attained by achieving and maintaining a strong mind, soul, and body. Now, this is a segment that we call Real Talk. And this is where we kind of dive into some real, hey, Eric, thanks for stopping in, buddy. God bless you. Real world issues that we've had to overcome in our own personal journeys, of course, and in our collective journeys when we come together as a blended family of 10, right? And on the gram there, we got a couple of big Noah's homies out there. Ethan, Paul, shout out. Eric, shout out. Thanks for stopping in, guys. And this is another episode, and I've changed the name, guys. I'm gone from loving basketball to straight up, we're just going to call it Basketball Diaries. You know what I mean? And yeah, we made that happen. I made an executive decision, and I just did that. Ethan, it's so interesting because I was hoping you were going to stop in tonight because I wanted to ask you straight up, the topic is growing up black in Winnipeg. However, we can call it growing up black and brown, right? However, I was like with you, your situation was so interesting because I think that you could have been blonde hair, blue eyed if you wanted to. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to ask you if that would have made it easier for you than, for instance, your dad. As an example, just an example, was it do you think that it was easier for you, or did you just always identify as indigenous and just always carried it? You know what I mean? Because you have those very neutral features, right? So when you get a chance, I'd like you, if you want to, speak on that for me. If it was any easier for you than maybe your dad or your mom, who look more traditionally indigenous. All right. So again, tonight's topic is growing up black, or really we can expand it to being growing up black or brown in Winnipeg. My wife here, she came from the communities, and one of the communities, and she'll tell her own story. However, I recall that when she, when we first got together, and she hadn't been here in the city all that long. However, it was I said to her, I asked her overall opinion, and she was just like, Winnipeg is one of the most racist cities that she'd ever been to, and that was that struck a nerve with me because there's a lot of cities. And while I understand and appreciate what Winnipeg is, and then I had to really sit and think on it. And I was like, yeah, I couldn't disagree.
Yeah, and for me, it's not so much the direct racism. It's that passive aggressive microaggressions, polite racism, and even just there's a certain look that you receive. And the thing that a lot of people, I didn't give you that look, or they, you walk into a store and right away you've got
a detail
on you, or you have, even going into the YMCA, and you have other people that, what are you doing in here? And you could just feel so uncomfortable. It's not that I was insecure. It was actually, you can actually tell. And a lot of people say, maybe you're just seeing things wrong. However, for me, I can feel
That's right.
what people are feeling towards me.
Well,
it's just
energy,
by their,
right?
it's their energy, it's their facial expressions,
Absolutely.
and their body language.
Absolutely.
So I always like to say BS.
And I'm gonna check in with Ethan real quick here because he responded and said definitely made it a lot easier. I'm thankful to not have dealt with racism whatsoever, but recognize it is there because my brother is darker than I am, and he's already had racism in his life, and he's only 14. So, again, Ethan had more Eurocentric features, and as such was able to navigate this a little bit easier, you know, and so. And if I could just piggyback off what you were saying a little bit, when, like, for instance, you walk into the lunchroom and the conversation changes. Like, I mean, and I had to work construction for the first time a couple years ago, in 2000. Sorry, excuse us a quick second here, please. In 2015, as a result of some really poor choices that I made, I was incarcerated for 2016, baby. No, 15. 2015, all of 2016 and out in 2017, right?
Yeah.
And where were we, baby?
I don't know. I got distracted by the phone. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's what threw me off there too. Give me a quick second to collect my thoughts here, please. And so what we were speaking on was the idea that
You were talking about working in
right.
construction. Sorry.
My love, thank you.
you.
And so thank you. So where's Big Noah? Big Noah is he's here.
Here somewhere.
He's here. He's here.
Watching a movie.
He's watching a movie with his sister. Tonight's episode of Basketball Diaries is going to be more my story, a little bit of a backstory before we get back to Big Noah, and then GQ Jordy is going to be on here too because I referenced him in our last basketball, Beloved Basketball, and how he, the first time he experienced, and that story is so raw for me because in that moment I had a choice. I could be honest and say to him that, hey, this is what it is, or I could have said something that would have taken the pain away in that moment. And I chose to say something. I lied and said something as a coward and said something that would have taken the pain away in the moment. I thought in the moment I was doing the right thing, but the reality was all I was doing was just prolonging his learned experience, right? Because it just meant that he had to go whatever it was a couple more years before he come to that, had his black moment. You know what I mean? And maybe that the earlier that you have that, maybe the better equipped you are to overcome it. I don't know. I don't know. It depends on the work that you do, right? So now I after 2017, the only job that I can get because I had to work was as a construction at NAC. They were doing the South Winnipeg water treatment facility down in South St. Patel, and if I were to say that most of my experience in Winnipeg was politely racist, then I would have to say that my experience there was hostile and overtly racist. And it was such an interesting, because I look back on it now, and I think on the personal growth that I've gone through, because I used to say things that, all the time I used to say things like, no job is worth my integrity and things like that, because it's a good thing to say, right? And then you look back and you realize that, damn, as that was bogus. That so there was that. So that's an area that that's tough, man, because they don't even and there's more of them than there are of you, obviously, and so that's tough. But that's not what we're gonna. Today we're gonna take a step back because yesterday. I came to Canada in 1980, November of 1980. I was 8 years old, I believe. And the first black family that I met here in Winnipeg was the Knight family. Chris Knight, Selena Knight, and I knew Chris and Selena best because they were my age, and I believe there were two older sisters, if I remember correctly, and I have vague memories of the dad. And Chris was here last night, and so we were, just catching up a little bit and so on and so forth. And I said to him, I said, Chris, because we went to elementary school together. And it's such a treasure when, as an adult, when you can draw on those memories and those relationships and you have those people in your life to draw on that strength. I have another friend that old. I have maybe a handful, and another is Joey, and that comes on here, Joel Wilcox, Nee Spencer, and Carla. And it's such a blessing for me, to a certain extent, Angie. It's such a blessing for me to have those memories, it's a mess up here sometimes. So I said to Chris, I asked Chris, I said, do you remember Miss Mitchell? Miss Mitchell was our grade 3 teacher, right? Well, Miss Mitchell was my grade 3 teacher. And I asked him, I says, do you remember Miss Mitchell? And he said yes, immediately. And I was like, yeah. I said, because I remember her too. And I says, I remember her fondly. And I says, I asked the question that had popped into my heart and placed in my heart just a couple of days ago. I asked him, I says, now, do you think that we remember her because she was a great teacher and she had a lasting impact on us in that regard? Hi, Carla. God bless you. Thank you for stopping in. I went to Laura Secord, and it's now called Robert A. Steen in the Wolseley area. And that was just down the street. I lived on Ruby Street. It's 3 blocks down. I would have had to pick up Richard Manabat on the way. James lived to the right up that way. Winston Blakey lived on Palmerston up that way. It's great. Terry lived right there. Joey lived right there. Would have to pick her up on the way. Andrea across the street to go. It's great. Anyways, a Laura Secret. It's called Robert A. Steen now. And and I asked the question that had been in my heart was, again, hi, Tony. God bless you. Thank you for stopping in. Did we remember her because she was an exceptional elementary school teacher and she imprinted on us and made a lasting impact on us that way? Or did we remember her because she was the only one that looked like us? Right? And God bless you, Tony. And he immediately said, oh, she's the only one that looked like us. And I mean, I always thought that it was because she just made a lasting impact and she was just an exceptional teacher. And then when I think back on it, I'm trying to remember, I went there for nursery. I used to live on Ruby too. Ha ha ha. There you go. On the north or south side of Portage. No, north or south side of Preston. And I mean, she was jolly. I mean, I loved her. I mean, she was great. I think, however, she was in my youth. She was the only in all of elementary. She was the only black authority figure other than my parents and Mr. Knight. And then when you want to talk about the psychology, 234, I lived at 247. How did I not know? How do I not remember that you lived, and you remember that you lived closest to me? How do I not remember that you lived 3 houses away from me? How do you see that it's a mess up here? It's just what it is that it won't come clear until I really take a long, hard look at.
Well, things are coming up. It's just it's taking time. He's just going. Picking things out where he had placed them. Mm-hmm. And once he finds out, connecting the dots, okay, here we go.
Yeah. And until I can, until I can look at the issue with, not an issue, but until I can look at the memory with my mom, I won't be able to figure out a lot of it. And I'm just not there yet. I'm close, I think. I don't know. I'm just not there yet. Yeah. Anyways, so and then when you couple that with the idea that when I turned on the TV, no one looked like me either, and then if I did see somebody looking like me, quite typically and quite often, they were in the role of a criminal or a malcontent or an unsavory member of society, right? And that's not the best environment to grow in, I think, and so I remember when the Cosby Show came out. I mean, I really latched onto that as a kid. right? I really got into the Cosby Show, right? Like Theo was my big brother, Bill, and I was Home Street when I was 4 with Franco and Jesse. Wow, your memory is so solid, Carla. Wow, that is so fantastic. But that was before my time still. That was before I got there because you were 4 and I'm still a little bit older than you. And I was 8 when I got here. So yeah, that's a little bit before my time still, right? So then we went to, and then there was the thing was that at Laura Secord, like I basically from grade 3 to grade 6, I basically got beat up every day at lunch. Right, and I always attributed it to the fact that I had a big mouth because I did, and you know what I mean. And I just said no. I took my lumps because that's what, you know what I mean, and that's just what it was. And now I look back now though, and I think I said, was there anything else that motivated that? Was it because I was different? I can't know. You know, in all fairness, I can't know. But elementary school was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't horrible. I had my friends, we'd go for bike rides and stuff. I had some really great friends. Obviously, Joey and, her brother Lance and, Kevin Tattoo and Terry and, Richard Manabat and Tom and Winston Blakey and Tom Lee. Yeah. So I was never at home because there was not really anything at home for me. There was I was the youngest and everybody else they were teenagers and I was just, they were into their own thing, So I was never home, right? And yeah. And then I went to high school, right? In high school, junior high, we went to Gordon Bell after that. Gordon Bell went from grade 7 to grade 12, right? So then we went to Gordon Bell after that. And I think grade 7 and 8 were pretty cool. And grade 9, I remember grade 9 grad, that was pretty cool. And then grade 10, grade 10 is when my mom died, right? And then Mr. Koosh happened, right? And even at Laura Secord, or Gordon Bell rather, if at Laura Secord, if Ms. Mitchell was the only black teacher that I was, or black authority figure that I was exposed to by the time I reached high school, there were obviously more black authority figures. However, I only remember one black teacher at Gordon Bell, and Mr. Gaston. My sister had him. He was the social studies teacher. And my sister had him, Andreen, she had him. I never had him. And she said he was great. I saw him in passing. We never had a relationship because, I never had him as a teacher, so we never had to, you know what I mean? But Mr. Koosh, right? And I don't quite remember what happened. I think if I had to bring it down to a single event, sorry, baby.
Yeah.
A single event that turned Mr. Koosh against me, other than, right? Yeah, I never had, I never heard, Carla said Mr. Gaston was great. I never had him, however, I never heard anything bad about him. When he was reffing basketball games, he tended to be a little bit opinionated, but outside of that, I don't have nothing bad to say about the guy. Everybody I ever talked to him that had a personal relationship with him said he was great. Desmond, my homie, Desmond Webb out in DC said, he's a big fan of his, Mr. Koosh. I think what it was is he was on cafeteria duty one day, and I was spiraling. This is after my mom had passed, and you have to understand that I was a rock star prior to that. I was a straight A student. I played all the sports. There was a delegation that got to go and speak to Mayor Bill Norrie at the time was the mayor at the time, and Sebastian Song, God bless you. Hello, thank you for stopping by. God bless you. And so I was selected as a representative for the school to go down there to represent the school, to speak on some of the issues that were played. The Rattlers, the gang, the street gang, the Rattlers were a big problem at the time. And so I was one of the students that was selected, and I was a young person, and you know what I mean. I was like in grade 9 or 10 at the time, and the other students that were selected were seniors, you know, grade 12, and they took me because, and you know, I was in drama. I mean, I'm not to blow my own horn. I'm just to illustrate that I was on a trajectory. Like when my sister, I remember my sister Andrea, she said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I was a very intelligent child, right? And she wanted to feed into that. And she said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said to her, I said, I didn't even skip a beat. I said, I want to be the first black prime minister of Canada. And she said, and God bless her. She didn't laugh, she didn't chuckle, she didn't nothing. She looked me dead in the eye and she was like, yeah, you can. She said, okay, yeah, okay. And I said, if that don't work out, I want to be a lawyer. And I mean, that was my trajectory. Hey, Harry, God bless you. Thanks for stopping in. And I would, I mean, because I mean, I was on the debate team. It just fit. It was natural, you know. I was, you know. I was a great student. I was great at studenting. I love getting good marks. I love it. There's just something about it, about getting a good mark, that really does it for me. You know what I mean? However, I was a teenager, right? And I was young and stupid, right? And then so, Mr. Gaston. And this is when I knew that Mr. Gaston had it, or no, excuse me, Koosh had it in for me, right? Because we had a couple run-ins prior, right? However, I didn't have him as a teacher. And I didn't have him as a teacher until grade 10, right? And so I said that, I suspect that this guy has something for me. So I'm not going to give him a reason, right? I'm not going to give him a reason. So I remember vividly, one afternoon, we were doing an assignment, and I believe I was working with Marvin, okay? You remember Marvin, Carla, glasses. He's an engineer now. I don't know if he still has the glasses. Little dude. He and I won the Governor General Award. Subbed. I'm sorry. I don't know what that means. My apologies. Marvin and I won the Governor General's Award one year, best grades in the school, and they sent us to U of W for a week. So we were working, right? And I've had this big voice since like grade 6. If I remember correctly, one day in grade 6, it just cracked. My voice went, eh. Carla, you know, it's funny, Carla. Joey said she did too. I didn't think anybody remembered that. But anyways, yeah, it just cracked, and then it just.
Oh, subscribe.
Oh, thank you so much. God bless you. Appreciate you. Thank you. We appreciate the support. So I know, knowing I have this big voice, and it's always gotten me in trouble, because when I speak at a normal tone, it sounds like I'm, you know, so and everybody's talking, you'll hear my voice first. It's always been that way. So I said that in this particular day, in this particular classroom, Mr. Koosh, because as I said, I felt that he had something for me. So I said that I'm not going to give him a reason. So I said, you know what, everybody's kind of just, you know, talking. And what it was that me and my lab partner, had reached a point and we couldn't go any farther. So we were waiting for somebody else to catch up so we could work on it together, because that was allowed, right? And my partner and a bunch of other guys, they were sitting around talking. And I said that, not me, not today. I said, no, I'm not going to get singled out today. I said, let me open up my binder here. And let me do some math homework in the meantime, because I'm being productive, so I'm not going to get in trouble, you know? So I got into my binder there, and I'm doing the math homework. I'm the only one that's being quiet. Now, granted, I'm the only one that's not working on the project, because everybody that's working on the project, everybody else is waiting for them to catch up, and they're, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there working, and then all of a sudden I see his shadow. Big skull, tall, skinny dude, right? I see his shadow right over my right shoulder, and I believe, and I look up, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I'm just catching up on some math homework. Where are you in your assignment? I said, well, I showed him. I turned the divider to the social studies, and I showed him that we'd caught up. We were just waiting for such and such to do such and such. And in the meantime, I said, instead of talking and getting in trouble, I thought I would just sit here and get caught up on some math homework. And he looked at me and he said, "This is social studies, not math. Get out." All right? And that's when I knew he had said that, because prior to that, I'd only suspected he had something for me. And that's when I knew he had something for me, right? But I left. I left because, what choice did I have? What we're going to do? We're going home and tell who? Mom was gone. Dad was busy with work. The older sibs were busy with their life. Who am I tell? Right, so I just ate it, right? And then, so then everything came to a head when everything came to a head when one afternoon. I remember it was. I would seem to want to think it's a Friday afternoon, but it might not have been. However, I do remember that it was the last. It was 3:30. It was the end of the day, and that's important because at the end of the day, we have to take your chairs up and put. Good night, sir. Good. And you got to take your chair up and put it on top of the desk, right? Because it's the end of the day, 3:30. It might have been a Friday too for the weekend, whatever, right? But the end of the day for sure. And so, all right. So now you gotta remember them orange chairs. Like there's these ones, the legs kind of go just like that a little bit, so they don't really. You can't put them. You can't stand them up. You gotta turn them over and turn them upside down and sit them on the chair, like on the seat and the back of the chair like this. And what it was I had all my books in this hand, so I picked the chair up with my right hand without, I'm just a dumb kid. I didn't know that it was. I put it on the table and it fell. I'm like, damn. Picked it up, put it on the table, and it fell. Damn. Picked it up, put it on the table, it fell a third time. Damn. Put my books down. And remember now, everybody, it's the end of the day. Everybody's leaving, right? Nobody really cares. Put my books down, picked up the chair, turned the chair over, put it on top of it, picked my books up, about to walk out the door, and I hear, "You stupid effing idiot. What the F do you think you're doing?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, the door just, the chair, it just, I didn't mean to do none of that. It just, And, I cracked. I'm sure I cracked at him. I'm sure I cracked something at him.
I love you.
And I was like, you know what, man? It's not even worth it. So I'm on. Good night, sir. Love you. I'm like, I'm just gonna be done with this day, and just. So I'm walking out the classroom, and the way that I went, I walked to my left and go around to the front of the classroom, and I had to walk by him in order to get out the door. And this dude actually stepped out from behind his desk and bumped me with his chest. Like he legit came up and gave me a chest. And I'm like, listen, man. I said, I beat your ass any day of the week, right? And I cracked, whatever, I was stunned, quite honestly. I went home and I told my brother Buzzle, and God bless him, he tried to go down there and square it with me, or help me square it, whatever. And I went back to school now. And I think at the time maybe I was, whatever. I went back to school now because I knew that some stuff was going to pop off, right? I go back to school now, I think maybe the next day, or I think it was the weekend. I think I go back to school on the Monday now, and I got to go see Mrs. Hogan. I remember the principal was Mr. Taylor. He had this thing, he had these glasses, and he had this thing that when he spoke to you, he always stood in your space, right? Good night. Thank you. Love you. This story is not really for them. Imagine, Carla said, imagine a teacher doing that now. We'll get to that.
No, and I have like it from Cadence, and he was assaulted by his grade 2 teacher.
Noah was assaulted, Big Noah, in grade 6. He was wearing a jacket. The playground monitor yanked on him so hard because they were lining up to go, and he had the audacity, I guess, to line up in front of her daughter, and yanked on him so hard she tore the hood right off his jacket, and that wasn't a tearaway jacket, right? You know, it is what it is. So he now, Mr. Taylor and Mrs. Hogan, principal and vice principal. And Ms. Hogan now telling me that I'm suspended. I said, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm suspended? I said, the teacher assaulted me in the classroom. How am I the one that's suspended? And I didn't have an adult there to advocate for me or defend me, and so it was, yeah. And she was like, well, that's not what we're not talking about, you know, that. What we're talking about is your blatant disregard for authority. And I'm thinking to myself that I have held this school up in high regard since I've been here, the 3 years that I've been here, and I had gone above and beyond to be a representative of my school. And this is how now you were treating me, because this guy has had a vendetta against me for what must have been over 6 months at that point. And then it had just come to a head. Remember, this started back in grade 9. This was now grade 10. All right? So then I ate it. What choice did I have? So I go home. I'm suspended, right? I go home and I talk to Buzzo, and I think Buzzo, that's when Buzzo tried to go down there and advocate for me. He might have even been there with me that day, I don't recall. But I go home and I just know that I can't be suspended from school. What am I gonna tell my dad? Right? So I formulate a plan. I says the next day I'm gonna go there because I know. She says, don't come to the school. I said, I know I'm not supposed to be there, but I gotta do something. I gotta do something. Hey, Amber, God bless you. Thank you for stopping in. I said, I gotta do something. So I go back, I come up with a plan. I said, I'm gonna go talk to Coach Benson. I'm gonna go talk to Benson because Benson will be able to advise me on what I can do, and maybe me and Benson can go see Mrs. Hogan, and Coach Benson can advocate on my behalf. So I went back to the school, and I went straight to Coach Benson's office by the senior gym. That's the only place that I went. And I told him, and he empathized immediately. He was like, yeah, no, that's right. You can't be suspended. No. Yeah, let's go talk to her right now. And we went down there for him to advocate on my behalf. And all she had to say was, while I appreciate that, you know, you don't want to be suspended, this is going to go down as you violating the rules, saying that you weren't supposed to be back. And then the following day, she expelled me. And I'd given that school everything. You know, athletics, academics, everything. And this was how she was. And I was the one that was victimized. And then I was expelled. And, you know, giving thought to this the other day, that probably really contributed to, because, you know, Mom was gone and, you know, my relationship at home was falling apart. And I think that this was one of the things that contributed to the fact that my running away, because for the last time, I didn't call it running away, I just left. You know, because if you're running away, you got somewhere to go. I just left. And working through my counseling and, you know, and looking at my personal trauma, you know, back then it was different. We called it different things. However, you know, working through when I was in rehab there and everything, working through my counseling, I came to the conclusion that, you know, at that point I was homeless for several years. You know,
you were what, 16?
Yeah.
At 16 years old.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We call this couch surfing, crashing, whatever. You know, you just. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was homeless, and I mean, it was only really bad a couple times, you know, where me and my homie, and I mean, it was never so bad that I never had nobody to be with. You know what I mean? And mm-hmm. that was really, and that's to this day. That's you know, my homies. I mean, my people. I got mad love for some people in my life, the ones I keep close, and there's a reason why, cause they've been through the fire with me, you know. And so I remember one night, you know, we slept in a garage, you know, in winter. We had some cardboard. One night we slept in, and those were the 2 nights that it was really bad. Mm-hmm. And then the other night we slept in a stairwell in a buddy's apartment building because, you know, he either wasn't home or he wasn't answering the door, right? So we just kind of had each other's six sitting up in the stairwell, you know, and you know, and those were the some of the hard years, right? Right.
And some of your formative. That would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TSN Turning Point.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Koosh. Yeah. That was tough. Go ahead, baby.
No, and I was just going to say, and that's, you know, that day and time is, a lot of the bias was very prevalent. And unfortunately, there was no terminology, there was no language,
Good night, baby.
there was no accountability for them.
Mm-hmm.
It
Love
was
you.
allowed to be done. Good night, baby. Love
Good
you.
night.
So there was no accountability. And even now, we still struggle with accountability with school staff,
Mm-hmm.
with people of authority, because it's just bias is ingrained in them. It's in their teaching and their core values. However, there's, you know, some individuals who overcome whatever they were taught, and they just made a decision that they weren't going to be that way.
And I mean, like, and I'll say it again, like, I'm still waiting. We're still waiting to hear back from Heshka. We contacted him Christmas before last in regard to our children, and I mean, we that attend his school, and we're still waiting to hear back from him. If you could confront him now about that time, what would you say? Wow, Carla.
I know, that's good.
I honestly believe that his actions negatively impacted my life in a great way. I believe that. If I were to see him now, I would be compelled to say, I forgive you. Yeah. That's all I would have. What else is there?
You'll have to answer to somebody one day.
Not me.
Or, yeah,
Not me.
I know, not you.
Yeah.
But you'll have to answer for his actions.
And that's what my faith compels me to do. Do I still hurt over what he did? Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely I do. But it's okay because I'm no longer broken over it. Mhm. So it's fine. Yeah. What would I say? I forgive you. You're stronger today because of yesterday. That is a fact, Carla. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. That is a fact. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's so interesting because, as you said, imagine a teacher doing that today. Okay. Fast forward 33 years. Right? I've overcome a great deal. God bless you, Carla. I've overcome a great deal, right? I now have my future wife in my life, and I'm you know, I'm starting to turn it around. By grace, You know, it took 33 years. Right? 33 years it took. But God is turning it around for me, right? Now, and not because it took 33 years for God to do what he did in my life. It took 33 years for me to do the work that I needed to do with me so God could do what he did in my life, right? So then I say that, you know what, I'm gonna give this school thing another shot, because we had this conversation. This is after the surgery, the hip replacement, and I said that, you know, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go back to work now, because I'm not one to sit and do nothing, right? I have to contribute. And so, you know, she's like, well, what are you gonna do? You gonna go back to construction? I'm like, aha! At the time, I had actually started up a plumbing apprenticeship during the construction. So I thought I was going to do that, either plumbing or electrician, or you know what I mean, get a trade. And I mean, I drive truck. I'm a chef. But there's things that I do. I have skills. However, so I said, let me go. Because she said to me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "What?" She said, "I'm not. What do I want to do? It don't matter what I want to do. I'm gonna do what I have to do." And she said, well, if you could do what you wanted to do, what would you do? And yeah, I did that. I stopped because no one had ever asked. No one had ever given me no one had ever offered me that option, right? And I thought about it. I said, well, I would go back to school. I would try something different, and I would go back to school and try something different. And she said, well, why don't you? I says, because I have to work. I have to provide. And she was like, well, why don't you tell this part, baby? You were there.
I know I was there. Your memory is so much better than mine.
I mean, it's like, because go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, that's all I was going to say. Yeah.
Essentially, she gave me the option to say that, to go back to school, because she was working at the time, had her career, and then, what with student loans and everything else, we would more than be okay. And so I was like, okay. So I started that process, and because of the disability, there was some government funding available, and I did that. I did all of that. And then I found a course that I wanted to take, and I went to CDI, and I mean, I went back to school, and it felt good, It did. It felt good for a minute, because and then again, that same fire come back, that I like to do well on tests, regardless. I don't know why. It's just something. I'm an intellectual snob, and I have no reason to be, right? I like to do well on tests, and I was killing it, And then a funny thing happened. And I don't need to get into the details of what happened. It was just that white supremacy decided again to show me that I felt that the prevailing, and I told this to the director, I felt that the prevailing atmosphere in the classroom was quite simply that it's bad enough that we have to tolerate your presence. We shouldn't have to listen to you too. And it all came to a head, and it was like a scene straight from out of Brown, Mississippi Burning, or Brown versus the Board of Education, whatever. The only thing they didn't do was spit on me. One of the girls did lay hands on me, and I was shouted down, I was yelled, and the thing is that I said that I do not accept your characterization of me being a bully, of me being overly aggressive, that you guys are afraid of me. You don't even know me. And these people that were afraid of me, these entitled white women that were afraid of me, all of a sudden started yelling and screaming and spitting at me, and one of them had the audacity and the nerve to actually put hands on me. If you're afraid of me, how could you feel so empowered and emboldened to actually lay hands on me? I'm not a small man.
And the thing is, you were doing a presentation and they stopped your presentation.
Because I chose to use my time to say, hey, I don't accept this treatment. And it's so interesting because a couple of the guys, one fellow in the classroom, I think his name was Anthony, he marched to the beat of his own drum. And he said, why are you guys attacking him? He's just saying that he doesn't like the way you're treating him. And then they started attacking him, and he was their friend. There's that mob mentality. So it's so interesting, I thought, that 33 years later, almost to the date, I went back to school, and the same thing happened. So I'm thinking, school maybe just ain't for me. I tried, man. I gave it the old college try. I mean, I went the first time, and that didn't work out. And I said, maybe it's me. Let me get some maturity. Let me get some seasoning under me. And then I went back again, and it was even a worse experience the second time around than the first time around. Right? And then how this ties into basketball. God always has a plan, Carla. God always has a plan. Right? No, as this ties into basketball, let me and now remember, she's at my side now, so I'm used to having to fight these battles by myself because the ex didn't get involved when it was me against white supremacy. Right? And I'll just speak on one incident of the basketball because it involved her. And now the game just started. I'm coaching. She's the manager. Game just started. No problems, right? This referee, I have experience with this referee in basketball Manitoba from when I was coaching Noah 13 years ago. And it became very evident immediately that he still had a grudge. And I was like, damn, okay. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just take the technical because that way he can get it out the way and then maybe we can just get on with playing the game. Right? Let me just take this technical. He can get it off his chest and we can move past this. So he made a call. It was a horrible call. And that's how I just said that. Oh, ref, that's a horrible call. And I knew I was going to get a technical. And that's all I said. And that's how I said. She was there. I said, that's a horrible call. Technical. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I said, now I'm going to go coach up my team because that's, he's going to make the call, da-da-da-da-da. I'll take a couple seconds to let the guys know it's fine. That was planned. Hopefully now he'll be able to,
officiate
more fairly. Except he wasn't done with me, right? He wanted to give me the technical and that wasn't enough. All of a sudden now he wants to give me a lecture on what I don't know. So he comes and I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I gotta go. I got a job to do. I says, ref, if you want to talk, you can talk to my manager, right? And she'll relay the message to me. But I gotta go talk to my guys. And this guy is literally chasing me up the sideline. I actually jumped over the bench to get away. I'm like, please stop chasing me. Please stop. And then finally, he's like, then my wife jumps up, fiance at the time, and she's like, okay, what's the problem? If you need to talk to someone, you can talk to me. Right? And then he jumps on her and I'm like, whoa. No. And I look, and Bryce is the vice president or president of Peg City. Him and Sean Close, it's their gig. He's sitting over there pretending not to see. Darcy, who works for Darcy, who's the convener and has been the convener for Basketball Manitoba for 20-some years. When I was there 13 years ago, she was there, and she's there pretending not to see. And another Basketball Manitoba employee is standing there up on the camera pretending not to see. And I'm looking at all these Basketball Manitoba employees, and I'm saying, guys, is anybody going to help me? And I look at the scorekeeper. Mm-hmm. The scorekeeper. And he look up to me, and he's like, what do you want us to do? I'm like, hey man, you can't talk to her like that. And he, you know what? He threw me out because I was defending my fiance because he was being harassing towards her. In her face. And he threw me out.
Disrespectful towards me when I'm just asking a simple
No,
question.
not disrespectful. That's harassment and damn near assault. And he threw me out. And there were at least 3 Basketball Manitoba employees there, including one of the facilitators of the They call it, what do they call it? They call it a showcase, Peg City Showcase. It's not a league, it's a showcase.
On that ref was Pete.
And that ref was Pete. And they all pretended to not see a thing. And I was forced to leave because I didn't want to punish my children or create a scene or make an unsafe environment for my fiance. And before I left, I turned around and I looked at Pete and I said, "You, sir, are a disgusting human being." And I left. I mean, my lived life experience about that. I mean, there's not one story. There's not two stories. There's a grown up black in Winnipeg, man. It's been a grind. It's been a grind. However, right? I've said all of that to say this. As Carla said, God always has a plan. Right? And your journey is going to be different from mine, will be different from my wife's. Everybody's on their own journey, but my journey, right?
And I think by sharing stories, like I would like to hear stories from other people that had similar experiences. And is bringing awareness, because the more awareness you bring to certain type of behavior within a system, and Basketball Manitoba is a system that is designed to benefit few under what? Like, it's to benefit the cliques, the nepotism, you just see it, you can feel it. And however, I think that bringing awareness should show that, there should be something done.
And it's not just, I mean, very quickly, it's not just because she's a hockey mom. Before Cadence left, Cadence played AAA hockey with the St. Vital Vics. That's the #1 program in the city. So, I mean, he's an elite level hockey player, right? And he was that before he came to the city. And then he was here for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so no, it's not just hockey or basketball or hockey or football or, And now, having said that, God has a plan. And for my journey, it was simply this. I went through what I went through so that I would have a testimony for the goodness of God. I mean, I'm not a snakeskin, oilskin salesperson, as they used to call in those old Chuck Wagon movies and so on. And, I'm not here to sell nothing to anybody other than the idea, the goodness of God. That's it. That's it. And I will only ever have to call on my lived life experience in order to speak that truth. Right? Because I know I've been through the fire. Right? I know I've been through the flood. And he didn't say that we wouldn't get wet or singed. He just said we wouldn't be consumed. And let me tell you that I look at it like this. When I look back and I see what I've been through, I know that I possess that indomitable will to follow wherever God may lead. I know that about myself. And that's very empowering. I know that come hell or high water, excuse my language, I will always get up and keep putting one foot in front of the other. I know that about myself. I know that when it gets too hard for me, I can lean on my God. I know that unequivocally. And that's so empowering because I've never had that feeling before at any point in my life. Right? I say this quite often, is that, as parents, it is very important to us that we instill in our children a sense that, no matter where you go in the world, no matter what you get into, good or bad, you can always come home. A little while ago, Jasmine, our oldest daughter, she was up here and she just smiling, She smiles so much more now. We're making progress. It's work.
She's doing her work.
She's doing her work. We're doing our work. We're all just doing work trying to heal from trauma. And she just had this smile and she just lit up the room. And I said, Jasmine, she said, yeah. Mm-hmm. I said, you know what? When you go out into this world and you're doing your thing, if life ever gets so hard or complicated that you can no longer smile like that, no matter where you are, She go, I know. Just pack up and come home. Glory to God. She said it. I didn't even have to tell her. She said it. Just pack up and come home. And that, I believe, is so very empowering for a child to know that they can go out there and spread their wings and try to fly. And it's okay, because it's the effort that matters. It's the effort that matters. Live your life. Whatever it is that, that thing that you was planning on doing, do it. That outfit you've been saving, put it on. That money you've been saving for that thing, spend some of it, not all of it, because something can happen tomorrow. I really just said all of that to say this. None of it matters. Because once you tap into your Godhead, once you tap into that, because we all have a hole inside of us that only God will fit into. And we put sex, drugs, alcohol, fast